Day 530 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzy here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as Russia has now hit the truly staggering 250,000 figure for military personnel losses. And just for a little context, the original limited special military operation, as it was called, mobilized about 190,000 of the professional Russian army. Then, when that didn't work out, about 6 months later in September time of last year, they started a new mobilization round of 360,000 personnel, therefore adding up to 550,000 at that point. And even then, that wasn't really working out very well, so Russia got into these shadow mobilization tactics, enticing Russian civilians to voluntarily join the ranks with sign-up bonuses. Therefore, those individuals were not included on the officially and previously mentioned 550,000 mobilized men. So there's actually no telling the actual higher number of Russian soldiers that Russia has actually committed to this war. And add to that, Russia even offered citizens of neighboring countries sign-up bonuses as well. Therefore, as a combination of disclosed and undisclosed personnel figures assembled for this war, it starts to give real credibility to this 250k figure that you see right in front of you. Also, that's the KIA. That's not even the wounded in action. Now, I'm actually not a fan of this blood-bathed calculus, and that's kind of the point really, as no invading country should ever have to put up with even a fraction of these loss figures, as it's some pretty wasteful and abhorrent treatment of Russia's own countrymen, all at the hands of Putin's singular and hell-bent determination to invade a sovereign nation right next door. Then we'll head back across to the map today, as Ukraine in the last 24 hours went on the offensive, this time striking at two bridges that strategically link to Crimea and the Kherson Oblast as well. One bridge was the Shonar Bridge and the other was the bridge going into Henichesk. And all done with the Storm Shadow cruise missiles, and possibly from the French variant, which is pretty much exactly the same, which is called the Scalp EG. As we can see in this footage here of Ukrainian President Zelensky signing the missile. Which is good timing, considering Russia was firing a large salvo of missiles into Ukraine just a couple of days ago in an attempt to take out the Melnitsky airfield, from where the Storm Shadow-equipped Ukrainian Su-24 aircraft jets actually deploy. But as the Ukrainian Air Force spokesperson Yuri Inat said, multiple protections are in place to protect the Storm Shadow launching aircraft from any Russian threats anyway. And just to add insult to injury, these Ukrainian strikes on the bridges were carried out by the very same planes that Russia claimed to have destroyed in their previous night's strike on the Ukrainian airfield. So that's just awkward. Then, as for Russia's response, well, it was as expected, saving face once again, as the Russian appointed governor of Kherson, the Kherson Oblast, said the two bridges were practically not used by or for military purposes, which is an extremely odd thing to say, given that there is only 4 ways in total in and out by vehicle to the entire oblast from Crimea, which certainly needs to be utilized by Russia for military supply logistics and personnel movements to the front lines. So as a result, events like these can have the very unfortunate outcome for the Russian army of rerouting or needing to reroute lines to less efficient back routes to put them in range, therefore putting them in range of other Ukrainian artillery, for instance. Then moving along on the map, we'll start out in the northern Donbass today, as Ukrainian forces in the past day pushed the Russian forces out of positions just southwest of Svatova. Now, if we use the date map here, you will start to see that there's quite the push there, in fact, for the Ukrainian forces. Then moving down further on the map, Ukrainian artillery from the 110th Brigade hit and destroyed 3 areas of manpower and equipment near to Donetsk city. Then moving to the adjacent Velika Novosilka axis. So Ukrainian forces are actually fighting their way into Urozane, coming from the north, the west, and the east. So here we have it there, Urozane. In fact, even right now as I speak, there's very early fresh reports that now suggest that the AFU has managed to grab a foothold into the settlement itself. Also, as for Urozane, Russian sources claim to have a very bad situation there and complain about the lack of artillery. So it looks like we're back in complaints territory once again for the Russian forces not getting their ammunition needs met. Then moving to the Orikhiv axis. So this one's a bit odd. But so a Russian channel reported that near Robotion, Russian troops wanted to carry out an operation behind enemy lines, quote unquote. So Russian soldiers changed into Ukrainian uniforms or colors, but were spotted by a Russian UAV who probably knew nothing about this. Then the Russian UAV operator mistook the Russian group for Ukrainian soldiers and then were directly fired upon with artillery. Result, 32 deaths. Then after this, the Russian commander who gave the order to carry out this operation of sorts has fled and they seem to be looking for him at the moment. I wonder why. You see, this is exactly what I've been talking about for so long now. There's completely insufficient communication, and not just between the various arms of the Russian military, but also within the Russian army itself. There's been so much friendly fire going on for the Russian army for so long now, and it's not about to stop. Then, as for this region, a little bit more generally, despite some criticisms about the speed of the southern counter-offensive operations, former Russian Lieutenant Colonel Guliev, with experience in Afghanistan, has actually praised the conduct of Zaluzhny and Ukraine in the war. So Guliev stated that the Russian army's high number of casualties, which is at least 10 times more than those in Afghanistan, indicates they are not fighting effectively. In contrast, he commended Zaluzhny for leading the Ukrainian forces intelligently by prioritizing the safety of his soldiers rather than sacrificing his troops in reckless attacks, just like we see so much from the Russian side. Then we'll head across to some news for today, guys. So, Saudi Arabia hosted a meeting in its country regarding the war in Ukraine over the weekend, which included 40 participants, including China, but not Russia. And as an outcome to those talks, all nations agreed on supporting only a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine that respected Ukraine's territorial integrity. And impressively, even China did not object to these agreements, these peace agreements, as China was acting quite supportive of the agreed language used at the event. Though, having said that, here's hoping that that just wasn't lip service though. Then in some other news, today another 22 Ukrainian defenders were returned home from Russian captivity, which happens from time to time through brokered international deal swaps between the POWs in each of the countries, Russia and Ukraine. So it's always good to see when the Ukrainians, some of these soldiers come back home. Then moving across to the lighter side of news or things. So this footage is from a good number of weeks ago now. But here we have a father and son who met back up in Bakhmut after a significant time apart due to the war. And you can really feel the love right there. Then moving across to a quick funny to round it all off for today, guys. Perhaps a shorter video, this one. But Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov recently spoke with the New York Times, and in doing so, he said, quote, "Our presidential election is not really democracy, it is costly bureaucracy. Mr. Putin will be re-elected next year with more than 90% of the vote." So, Russia's not even pretending to be a real democratically elected nation anymore. This comes straight from, like I said, the spokesperson of the Kremlin. Why am I not surprised? So that'll need to be it for today, guys. Like I say, slightly shorter video. Not sure if I'll be in tomorrow, but certainly the next one after that, the next day. But thanks again for all of the comments, all of the support. Really appreciate it. Ideally, I'd like to just get to 100k. Feel really good with that in terms of subscribers. So if you do watch the channel a lot and you're not subscribed, then I'd really recommend and appreciate, if you hit that subscribe button, because it just really helps boost out the channel and spread the message here that I'm always looking to spread to the world. So thanks again, guys, and I do hope to see each and every one of you there in the next one. Cheers.